That we come to our final talk for today. Dr. Hadden again will speak to us on penguin visual system.
Oh, this is just a bit of fun, really, a bit lighthearted. But I'd like to talk about penguins. If you can put my slides up, please.
Peter, while you're there, may I just make a comment on your first talk on Peter?
It's under number 3, folder number 3. No.
The last one.
Number 3, and then Penguin India. Thank you. Okay. So New Zealand hasn't got as many people as India, but we've got more penguins, and they've been a bit of a research interest for me lately. And I've drawn this talk from a few of these papers that we've published on this topic, because no one else has really looked much at penguin vision. So why penguins, I hear you ask? Well, I need to start the movie, please. So there's actually there's sound that goes with this, but okay. I may be biased, but you have to say that penguins are pretty special birds about which we...
Every winter for protection against the bitter cold, because these little fellas can do something no other penguins can. Isn't that amazing? And how do they use this incredible ability? Well, they fly thousands of miles to the rainforests of South America, where they spend the winter basking in the tropical sun.
So unfortunately, the penguins I have been studying are flightless, but they do have some pretty impressive abilities otherwise. They can swim, and they occupy a large range of environments from the equator to the Antarctic. And here's just a few selections of penguins in different environments from the Galapagos to Antarctica. So flightlessness is actually an advantage for vision because it allows a large eye. If you consider a volant bird, it's got two heavy fluid-filled balls at the front of its head, and this is a problem for balance. But if you're flightless, this is no longer a concern. So you can see a large eye on one of our pictures that we drew of a dissected penguin head. The eye also can be protected by large muscles and thick bones where the skull doesn't cover. And you can see in the top left there's actually a ring of bone and just behind the cornea, just behind the limbus. A big eye, all other things being equal, allows the possibility of greater spatial resolution because there are more photoreceptors. And the larger pupil of bigger eyes is going to reduce diffractive limitations, although it will increase aberrations. It will also increase light gathering. This could be important because depending on the species, penguins have to operate in depths down to 500 meters, where the illumination is obviously going to be very low even during the day in tropical waters, but you can imagine in Antarctica in the winter where it's night pretty much all the time, it must be virtually black. So the avian eye has a number of features that distinguish it from placental mammals, including bony elements within the eye. These include that sclerolostical ring that I noticed here in the little penguin, which may protect the eye and allow a firm attachment for the muscles that move the eye, and also it may change the lens contour, allowing accommodation so they can see close up and far away, as well as change the focus underwater. They also include in some penguins this bony os opticus, as you can see in number A, which doesn't occur in all penguins, interestingly, and to which the muscles that move the nictitating membrane, the third eyelid, appear to attach, or at least lie under, as you can see in number B. Penguins, though, were found differ from other birds that have been studied. This is the jugal arch, in some ways equivalent to our zygomatic arch, but not phylogenetically the same. Birds are usually described as having 3 bones in the jugal arch, and you can see that in the little penguin there are indeed 3 bones. We've got a micro CT with the bones coloured different colours. But in the Gen 2, which you can see in the photo above and the line below, it's only got 2 bones. So that's an unusual thing. Birds also have a pecten, a group of vessels that protrudes into the vitreous cavity to nourish the inner retina rather than retinal vessels. And here you can see sticking out from the optic nerve in a Gen 2 chick, the pecten. You can also see a very fibrillar pars plicata, a rather flat cornea, and one of the muscles that moves the nictitating membrane just adjacent to the optic nerve. So some people used to think that penguins are myopic on land so that they can see underwater. The opposite of humans, of course. When you're swimming, you can't see underwater because you're out of focus. However, our measurements show that this is not so. We've refracted them both in air and underwater. As you can see, one of my colleagues performing retinoscopy on a sedated penguin here, and they're emmetropic in both environments. How do they do this? Well, basically they wear goggles. They can also accommodate up to quite a bit, and we think they can accommodate up to 39 diopters in the case of the small eyes of the little penguin. The goggles are their very flat corneas. The top one shows a Gen 2 penguin, and you can see its keratometry flatter than ours. The bottom one is a king penguin, which is a bigger eye, and it's got a very flat cornea. So it doesn't have as much of an accommodative burden when it suddenly goes from air to underwater. Penguins are also have very interesting corneas in other respects also. You can see that the cornea looks quite different from that of the human. Here I've got a human confocal and a king penguin confocal. For instance, the stromal cells are arranged in a lattice-like pattern, and they don't have the same superficial nerve plexus that we do. We're not sure why this might be, though. We wondered perhaps because they're trying to transmit UV light? So if you can play the next video, please. Or maybe I can start. So here I am holding a...
Yeah, definitely.
I can't see it, you can't see it on the snow.
Yeah.
Clearly the Gen 2 penguin can. But there are problems with seeing UV. As you know, short wavelengths give more chromatic aberration and therefore blurriness, which is particularly a problem if you're aiming for high definition vision. And humans actually have pretty good spatial sensitivity compared to most animals. So then we looked at the optical transmission of the penguin eye. Interestingly, the king penguin, which has a bigger and therefore potentially better eye in terms of visual acuity, doesn't let through UV light. You can see the difference between the little penguin in the blue and the king penguin in the red. The little penguin has a smaller eye and does let in UV. Could this be due to the fact that the king lives further south than the little? The little lives in New Zealand generally, in southern Australia, and the king in the subantarctic islands. Well, we don't think this is the case because some Gen 2 penguins, which also let UV light through, live further south on the Antarctic continent itself than any kings. So perhaps it may be to reduce chromatic aberration and improve their vision because they've got better vision. Also, you can see the visual pigments where they absorb light. All visual pigments absorb light in the UV spectrum. So if you're trying to differentiate colours, seeing UV may be an issue because you're going to find it more difficult to differentiate the colours. But of course, we had to check out their visual acuity too. So if you can play this video. stripes as we're moving them around on that wall. You can see actually a lot of penguins are interested in these are the sea stripes. But we wanted to test how really good they are, and if you play this video, we made a little program and shone these very small stripes at a wall and saw if they followed it. And if you can play the video, please. Start getting interested in this. Against the equilibrium, following it. And it followed it to about 624 level. And it also seemed to follow just the same when we stimulated the long wavelength cones and when we stimulated the short and medium wavelength cones. Because some people think the birds may have two different with different cones. So their vision's pretty good, actually, but not quite as good as ours, despite not having a fovea, which is what in humans we associate fine vision with. So you can see the human OCT, and here's the king penguin OCT. What matters, of course, though, is not the fovea, but the photoreceptor, in particular ganglion cell density in the central retina. So there's a stain of the ganglion cells on the flat mount of the king penguin retina. And so luckily, although there is not a fovea, they have a very complex retina with lots of cells and processing within it and very closely spaced photoreceptors, as you can see. On the left is a light micrograph of the Gen 2 retina, and on the right, TM of the king retina with its closely spaced photoreceptors. And you can see also the very thick inner nuclear layer. So, in summary, penguins, I think, have amazing eyes, and I look forward to finding out more about them. And thank you.